Welcome back to Bad Boss Detox. This week we are picking up where we left off in our conversation about obstacles. Keep in mind that all opinions expressed in this podcast, or any other podcast for that matter, belong to the hosts alone, and they're based on our experience, so please don't take it personal. So, here we go. We're diving right in. So, this was also related to my dad's business. Like, when he graduated college, he had a teaching degree, but he never got his teacher's license because during his student teaching, he gave up on that. He was like, I don't want to do this.
Okay.
Therefore, he had a struggle with his job ever since then. Mm-hmm. And my mom said when I asked her, why do you think that he was not successful in any of his attempts to start his own business or whatever? And she said it's because he gave up too fast. Like, he would start to see that it wasn't working, and then he would just give up and want to totally pivot to a new direction. Yeah. And that is related because I said I'm a lot like my dad. My dad was extremely intelligent, very gifted brain my dad had. Mm-hmm. And I also feel like I'm a pretty intelligent person, but the only measurement that we had for that at the time that I was growing up were these IQ tests. And at some point when I was 6 years old, they made me take an IQ test and determined that I was quote unquote gifted.
Oh.
What's your reaction about?
No, that's I don't like the gifted kid thing. I don't like the giving a kid a test. I don't like that.
Yeah. And here's why it's bad. Okay.
Makes me feel bad for kids.
Yeah. And it's, on the one hand,
having something you have to live up to.
Exactly.
And it's not fair when you're 6.
It put more pressure on me as a 6-year-old, thinking, oh, I have been given this gift of this brain, and I have to do something with it. And then they tell the other
kids, and then the other kids are like, oh, you're gifted.
Or you're a nerd, or you're a weirdo, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, really what it was is that I was good at that test that they gave me.
Yeah.
That's all that proves.
Yep.
That particular test happened to be some visual puzzles of putting pieces together, and I have a high visual intelligence because I'm an art person. That's it. That, scientifically, that's the only thing you can say for sure that proved, right? Because if I were to take the same test now, may not have the same result, you know?
Right. Or a different IQ test with different...
And we also know that there are different types of intelligence that people can have. Mm-hmm. So someone who's an amazing athlete might have a high physical intelligence, like awareness of their body, right? And understanding how far you need to throw a ball and what angle you need to do, all that kind of stuff is a different kind of intelligence than it is to be really naturally gifted at math, or someone who's really good at learning languages. This author that I'm working with this week, she can speak 5 languages. Amazing.
I can't relate to that.
Me either.
At all.
I can barely speak one. And
right?
So the whole gifted thing just put extra pressure on me to, quote, make something out of myself or not waste my potential.
Yeah.
And yes, there are kids that have different educational needs, but honestly, every kid has different educational needs and needs to be treated, with accommodations for those specific needs.
And different things that they're good at and not as good at.
Different things that they're good and not as good.
So it's not,
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately it was to my detriment, in a way. I did have
there's
fun.
There's a lot of gifted kids who would say that.
There's a lot. I agree.
I wonder who came up with the word gifted. It's kind of gross to me.
I don't love
gifted.
I don't love it. It makes it seem like privileged and not privileged, And the other thing was, and my mom was ticked off about this.
The Lord came down and he chose only some of the kids. Only some of them, or Santa. Mm-hmm. That's like Santa coming. Yeah, Santa comes to town, right? Santa Claus comes to town and he's like, no, not you.
Yeah.
Not you.
I love the idea of talking about God as just call him Santa. That's amazing. We're going to do that now. Oh, that's great.
Back to when you were saying about your dad giving up. Mm-hmm. I was kind of not really mad at my parents, but wished that my parents had made me stick to something. Mm-hmm. when I was young because I was allowed to quit everything. It was the same thing. Like I wanted to be a ballerina. So they put me in ballet, and in ballet they made me be a teapot. And I was like, but I don't want to be a teapot. I want to be a ballerina. And I wanted to skip over the hard part, the learning, the getting there.
Yes.
And when that wasn't an option, I just quit. And my parents were like, okay, whatever you want.
This is also related to the quote unquote gifted thing.
Well, I can tell you too that my former boss was quote unquote gifted, and everything from her childhood and everyone telling her how special and how gifted and how talented made her into the monster that she is.
It can be very, very toxic.
It made her when I told her she wasn't famous and she had to go have a emergency counseling session, her reaction was, or her response was, I was royalty as a child at my church.
Yeah.
So the fuck what, dude?
Right. But like that tendency to quit something when it's not immediately easy for you. Right. Yeah. That you see a lot in kids that are deemed gifted under that special education umbrella. I've seen that a lot. I was the same way. My dad was the same way.
Right.
Because he would, when it wasn't easy for him immediately, he would give up and be like, oh, that's not for me. As opposed to learning how to push through the hard stuff and persevere.
Well, it wasn't even a matter of ease for me. It was a matter of why am I not right away in the level that I should be?
Yeah. And part of that is comparing yourself to other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thankfully don't do anymore, but I did when I was young.
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it, but
I think most women are.
Yeah. It's an ongoing thing. And I'm not talking about any of this on a podcast to say like, woohoo, I beat it. It's more like, if you're feeling this way, you're not alone. And maybe this is where it's coming from for you. Yeah. Because this is where it's coming from for me.
People want to know that they're not the only ones that are all fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, today marks actually... Now we've passed it 18 minutes ago.
You're 18 minutes into your fully detoxed self at this moment.
Yes. So a little bit of backstory, because I haven't really gone into that with the listeners as far as my job. Everyone knows that for 25 years I worked as a personal assistant. And I think
everyone knows that.
Yeah, everyone knows. Everyone listening by now knows that. When you work as a personal assistant for an individual, you're not working at a company. You're not working so it's a very personal relationship. I did things in her home. I packed her suitcases. I fed her dogs. I did very personal things for her and also with her. Like I've said before, we'd go out to lunch. We'd do things. The whole 25 years wasn't bad. As a matter of fact, the first 15, 16 years were kind of neat. I got to raise my kids. I got to be at home. She was annoying and narcissistic and selfish and all of those things, but it was fine. It was fine.
She was still an alcoholic and she was coping using that.
Yeah. And it was fine. And like I said, it was fine. So in 2001, wasn't that when 9/11 happened? She fired me for a year. She fired me then because she didn't think she was going to have business, which she didn't for a while. And then she got business again and I went back. And during that time, I started working at a gym local to me. And since then, I've never not worked at a gym. Even when I went back with her, had a job at a gym that kept me sane. So she took me back in 2019. She turned 60 and everything spiraled out of control. Her mother died in 2014. But she was still drinking heavy, so that masked everything. Yeah. When she quit drinking, it was kind of like we went over the hump. It was like, now she's just mean. And so she had her 60th birthday party. She became Veruca Salt, and I decided then that I didn't want to work for her anymore. But what was I supposed to do? Yeah. What the hell was I supposed to do? So I just sort of, have you heard of quiet quitting?
Yeah.
So I just did what I was supposed to do for my job. I didn't cower to her anymore, though. when we had an experience with the lady that was cleaning her house, and I actually had to send her an email later on and tell her that I was ashamed of myself for not doing something when she was berating this person, and this person was just saying, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It was very disgusting, the way that she treated that person. And so after that, we started having some conversations where I would tell her how I felt, and it would go well, and then it would come back to haunt me.
Right.
So fast forward to through 2020, all of that stuff, she stopped coming outside. She became very reclusive and just grosser than ever before, like just a bathrobe, nasty. She never changed her sheets. She never cleaned her house. Everything was gross. She didn't have anyone to clean her house anymore because that person that she was so horrible to, she blames her. Like my former boss, just to get her to stay late, she would bribe her with lots and lots of alcohol and then talk to me about how she thinks she's an alcoholic. And
because
I'm like,
a narcissist will project their insecurities on other people.
Why are you buying her alcohol, bribing her to stay until 2:00 in the morning cleaning your house for your birthday party when she has a job? She got fired from that job because of all of this. And she continued to blame her, saying, oh, she's a scary person. She again tried to fire me last year in 2023 when she was running out of money. Because here's the thing. She hasn't worked again since 2019. She has never gotten another contract with anyone else since then. She had $1 million in her retirement account. When she turned 65, she was able to start drawing from that.
Mm-hmm.
So when she began to start drawing off of that, she was taking $20,000 a month.
Jesus.
Right? Yeah, $20,000 a month she was taking. When she started drawing the money from her retirement, she started being even worse of a narcissist, even more of a bully to me. I mentioned to you one time about being screamed at over a Facebook post.
Mm-hmm.
This was the norm. And so those were the first fights that we started having where I actually started standing up for myself. I actually started fighting back. I actually raised my voice back at her, which made me the bad guy. Her friend called me in October and said, she's firing you at the end of the year. I said, what? He said, yeah, she said she's out of money. Well, she don't know she's out of money because I can tell you one thing. She's never logged into her bank account ever.
Oh, my God.
Internet banking was invented while I was employed by her. Yeah. I created all of her internet banking accounts. I managed all of them. So he called me and told me that she was firing me. I didn't believe him, and then she did.
Yeah.
So during the time that we were transitioning, I prepared all of her passwords. I prepared spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet. I sent her all the emails. I told her everything she needed to know about her own life. Okay. Then January 3rd comes. That's my last day, 3 months ago today. And I thought that today I was going to be able to say that there was absolutely no contact whatsoever since then. But unfortunately, over the weekend, she sent me an email because she needs to cancel her QuickBooks, which I told her to cancel in January, and she said no because it has historic value.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, does she mean like she can look back at her taxes from previous years because they're still in there or something?
Yeah.
You can download those.
She doesn't know anything.
Okay.
And also everything is historic, okay?
The history of my taxes.
It's historical. It may need to, the whole world might not need to know about her finances later in life.
Put it in her memoir.
Anyway, so she sent me an email and she said, oh, I need to cancel my QuickBooks. And it is in your email address, ivy4crazytrain@crazytrain.com. That was my email address. And I told her multiple times before January 3rd that I was deleting that email address at 5 o'clock on January 3rd, 2025, and I would no longer have access to it. And I did that. It took me 6 minutes. I sat here until 5:06 with my finger on the trigger. It took me 6
I
minutes.
love that you know the exact time and
I know
date.
the exact time because at 6:05, I went and logged into it at webmail to see if she had sent me any emails. And she sent me an email an hour later at 6 o'clock, an hour after I told her I was deleting it. She sent me an email that just said, saddest day of my life.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
Shut up.
So she sends me the email on Saturday saying, I need you to do this for me. So I sent her the spreadsheet that had the password to her QuickBooks and said, I don't have access to that email anymore, but you do. I gave you all of this. It was like a 7-page spreadsheet that she made me make with every bit of information about her own life.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
it was ridiculous. So I sent it to her. Next day, she emails me and it says, I was able to do it. Thank you. Like I care. Like I didn't care. But her friend calls me again Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, because that's how he talks. I still have the recording because it's hilarious. He said,
everybody's going to know what state we're in now.
He said, well, I was in the neighborhood, so I called her up and asked her if she wanted to go out to dinner. He said, I went over to her house and picked her up, and apparently I was critical, and so we didn't go out to dinner. She made me turn around and take her back home because I was critical. I asked her why she hadn't been talking to you after you guys worked together for so long. And she said she hadn't talked to you. And apparently that pissed her off and she said, well, the last time I talked to her, she went off on me. I don't know what she's talking about.
Okay.
And then she told him that her whole family has abandoned her because it's always everybody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And
couldn't be that she's the problem.
It couldn't be. I've always said there's an old Chinese proverb, if you meet an asshole, you probably met an asshole. If all you meet are assholes, you're probably the asshole.
That's a good one.
Yep. I did want to mention this, though, that a few days ago, I asked my husband, do you like me better now?
Yeah.
He said, well, you don't come in the door and immediately start bitching about her. You don't come in the house and immediately, you wouldn't believe what that fucking bitch did, or I can't believe her, or any of that. He was like, before you even kiss my face. Like, you would come in the house and immediately start complaining and ranting and yelling before you even kiss me and tell me hello. And he was like, so I like you better now. And I mean, I can tell you,
no
like
kidding.
we talked earlier, I like me better now. I think I'm better at my other job. I think I'm just because I'm not stressed to the eyeballs and also being made to feel bad.
Yeah. I could tell the day that you came into our meeting and you had already quit. Like, you had a different way of walking in the door.
Yeah, there's just
that I could like read it on you.
It's just better.
Yeah.
And I should have done it years ago.
Yeah.
I should have done it the minute that she acted like a racist, entitled bitch. I should have done it. But I was scared. All those other things that we talked about before, it was scary. And it's not scary at all. Like, I mean, I'm lucky. Most people can't quit their job and have another boss that's like, oh, hey, I'll just give you half of what you're losing every week for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and most people don't have, but I mean, I do have a lot of privileges in my life, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say I do too, and I was going to talk about that in a second. I decided this year, since, for 2024, I decided to get an accountant because it was the first full year of me being a freelancer, self-employed full-time. Mm-hmm. I ended up having a meltdown over taxes, like a full panic attack, just when I was trying to input all the information for my accountant to go use. Because I had been all year trying to save money to put towards taxes. I knew I was going to owe money for taxes because that's how it works when you're self-employed. Mm-hmm. And I did not save enough. I'm not going to tell you how much I owed in taxes, but it was more than I spent on my wedding. So it was a chunk.
Ouch.
Basically cleaned me out.
Yeah.
Because I was not prepared for self-employment tax.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I felt like just a dumbass. I felt like I had totally failed. I felt like maybe I should go back to teaching because then I wouldn't have to pay self-employment tax.
Yeah, you just want that W-2.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be easier again, you know, and it was so much stress for me. And I also had to pay my accountant on top of all of it, and he wasn't cheap, but he's a good guy and knows what he's doing. And when I told Sean that I felt like I had failed as a small business owner and maybe I should go back to teaching, he said that broke his heart because when I was teaching, I would have a meltdown like once a week. The same kind of level of meltdown that I was having this week would happen like once a week, you know, when I was teaching and I was under that kind of stress. And it was because I felt like I was being taken advantage of, and I felt worthless and accused of being a terrible person, all of that. And when he said that to me, I was like, okay, but I just feel like a loser. I just felt dumb, like I should have known. And I was blaming myself, and I felt like a loser. And he said, you can't lose if you're still playing the game.
Yep.
And that was a great husband thing to say.
That really was.
So I just wanted to give him credit. Yes.
Yeah, good for you.
I love him so much.
Him. Yeah.
That was the right thing to say.
Yeah.
You know? So now, while that really was a blow, and I'm still trying to stomach that tax bill, it still hurts. But it was my miscalculation and my lack of knowledge. And now I know.
Right.
And now I know about filing quarterly, and I understand how, I can estimate a lot better. And I have this person, this accountant who knows what he's talking about and is also a small business owner because he's independent. And so I have someone else I can count on, and it's not going to be 100% onus on me to know everything. So I'm really grateful that I had that money in savings. And the only reason I had that money in savings was because of my privilege going into this situation.
Yeah.
I had been a homeowner, and I made some money when I sold my house. Like I said, my friend's mom that was a realtor, she crushed it. And I ended up making some money when I sold my house. And so that was my nest egg. That was my savings, my cushion while I was trying to start my voiceover career.
Right.
And even though most of it's gone now,
you'll get it all back.
I'm still in the black. I'm still playing the game, you know.
And now you're a famous podcaster.
And now I'm a famous podcaster. All 200 people that have listened to this podcast.
202.
You know, maybe they're not all different people. Maybe it's just your friend Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, sweetie. You're my favorite of her friends. I want you to know. Thank you for leaving us a comment on every single episode. But yeah, things are not always going to be smooth sailing. Like, just because you feel like you have beat the dragon doesn't mean there's not another dragon somewhere.
There's always another dragon.
There's always another dragon. Life's kind of boring without dragons, though.
Yeah. Like I said before, if you didn't have lows, you wouldn't know with the highs.
Exactly. And so now I'm here to tell you guys, if you don't know about self-employment tax, please Google it.
Yeah. Also, please pay quarterly, at least a little bit. You don't have to do anything. I tell my son all the time that you need to be making payments. No. So here in a few days, I'm going to hear about it from him.
Yep. Yeah. So that was my deal. I felt imposter syndrome. I felt all those things again. You know, that loss of self-worth, that whatever, like, I have a podcast where I tell people how to do this cool thing that I did that I'm proud of myself about, and I fucked up. Like, but I'm still allowed to fuck up. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, everything is always going to be fine as long as you got a roof over your head, you got a husband there that loves you. Your cat's good. You got work.
That's great.
Yeah, you got work. Like, that's what I always say when I worry about things, I always think, well, I'm not a psychic.
Yeah.
You know, so these things can't possibly be true. It's just shit that I'm putting myself through. I have 2 truths and a lie that are about my boss.
My former boss.
Stoked. All right, let's see if you can figure it out. I purposefully didn't mention a couple of these things in my rant so that okay. All right, so she once dropped her phone in a puddle in her driveway. When we found it hours later, she had driven over it, but insisted because someone told her that putting it in a bag of white rice would fix it. It didn't. And she proceeded to spend 20 minutes yelling at the phone store guy because the white rice didn't fix her phone.
After she ran over it.
And it soaked for hours in a puddle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She believes with all of her heart and soul that the State Museum where we live wants all of her stuff. And spent thousands of dollars organizing it for them. Number 3. Okay. She once asked me, in all seriousness, why her printer scans in color but won't print in color. She said, it just doesn't make sense.
I think that number 2 was true.
Okay.
About the State Museum. I mean, I would believe any of these things, to be honest with you. But I think that the third one is the lie.
It was really actually hard for me to come up with one that's a lie. But you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
No.
So was it the first
dropping
one?
the phone in the puddle, I got that from a Karen video on YouTube.
You got me so good.
I Googled on YouTube, I looked up Karen videos.
Worst Karens of all time.
So the whole white rice fixing it thing, I kind of just added some of what could have been her to that. But she does, in fact, believe that the State Museum where we live wants all of her stuff and spent tens of thousands of dollars on binders and binder sleeves and stuff. And
how many binders do you get for tens of thousands of dollars?
Okay, so...
Did she just buy Office Max?
But the 4-inch binders are really expensive.
Oh, 4-inch binders.
And then the sleeves that you put each individual piece of paper, all of her movie tickets, because, by the way, she goes to more events than anyone in the world. And that includes movies, lots of movies that she goes to.
So she saved her movie ticket stubs.
Everything.
Because she thinks that the State Museum wants that.
Everything. She saves everything, and everything goes in boxes, shadow boxes. So where I'm talking about the tens of thousands of dollars, all the pens from all the hotels that she's ever stayed at, they're all in a shadow box. All of the napkins,
are you fucking
cups,
kidding me?
empty plastic cups go in these boxes because the museum wants them. They want all of her stuff.
That is fucking crazy.
Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 65 binders.
That's so wild. I can see a Netflix documentary about this, but it would not be kind.
Well, here's the deal, because I looked it up. I looked it up. And yes, museums will they put it in the archives. So they will take certain things, financial statements, things like that, and put them in the archive. They do not want them organized. They want them thrown in a box and brought to them. She would not listen to me when I told her shadow boxes are expensive. 4-inch binders are expensive. All these plastic bins are expensive. And there are hundreds of them. 65 4-inch binders, so much space. There's nowhere to walk in her house.
Oh, my God.
And now some of her stuff is cool, but...
She saved every single relic of her life ever.
Everything. She has, the woman that used to work with her told me that she has the carton of orange juice from the day her dad died. She has the empty carton.
That's weird.
It's all weird. So
but also sad because, I mean...
It's sad until you live with it for so many years.
And
then
at a certain
it's just
point...
annoying. So
and then
I told her they don't want it organized. They don't want all this stuff. The man that came from the museum to her house... The girl that I was telling you about that used to clean for her was there when he came. He said, this is an impressive collection, only because he was trying to be nice.
Yeah.
And then he never responded to her ever again. Him saying to her, this is an impressive collection, made her believe that they, in fact, want all of her stuff.
She just wants to be validated.
She wants to be the most.
She wants to feel like she is as special and as important as she thinks she is, or wants to be, or feels like she should be. Like there's something broken there, and it's really sad to me to hear that.
It's also very maddening.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like logistically, wow.
Well, and it was me that had to sit here and smooth out all of her wadded up. And I told her once, I'm not going to take receipts that have bubble gum in them, and I'm not going to take pieces of paper that have been in dog piss. Don't send them to me again.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Gross.
Hey, what's the vocabulary word of the week?
Okay. All right. You're going to love this one. I've been saving this one for a rainy day, and it is
a
fucking
rainy day.
pouring outside.
Yep.
Okay. Today's vocabulary word of the week is, and I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I'll look it up in a second. Pusillanimous.
Huh?
Pusillanimous. One moment, please, while I Google it and make sure I'm saying it right.
I want that to be a song. Pusillanimous. She's
Sounds
so
like Snuffleupagus.
pusillanimous.
Okay, here it is.
Pusillanimous.
Pusillanimous. Spelled like you think it is. It is an adjective. It means showing a lack of courage or determination, timid, weak, and ruled by fear.
No way pusillanimous is all those terrible things.
It means those things, but yes, marked by contemptible timidity.
Like, I want a chorus line to run by going, she's so pusillanimous. I love that.
Yes, in our Bad Boss Detox musical, this will be the 11 o'clock number.
Can we please have that?
Yes. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write it.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Yeah, so here's our example sentence. Don't take abuse from your asshole boss just because you're too pusillanimous to quit, Tammy. I see you, Tammy.
Tammy.
Don't be a pusillanimous.
Don't be so pusillanimous.
You know, I can't help but notice a similarity in the root here because it is spelled P-U-S-I-L-L-A-N-I-M-O-U-S.
Pusillanimous.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
I love it.
All right. Well,
no word has ever made me sing into my microphone.
You know,
before.
I knew you were going to like that one, and I was just waiting for the right moment.
Ugh,
all of the best vocabulary words start with P.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So draw your own conclusions about that, listeners. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. So I have a listener story.
Ooh.
And this one is from unnamed individual because we don't give names.
Mysterious.
So it's called The Reason I Left. To start, I've been working for a person that thinks they are entitled to whatever they want, when they want it, and how they want it. These things are not bad on their own, but when issues arrive, there's a lot of yelling and blame, never theirs. Typical Karen syndrome. I did get fed up a few years ago after being offered another job that was/is just as toxic and that only lasted 6 months. The reason I left, well, the straw that broke the camel's back was when we were going to a work site, and on the way, they told me that their workers were really redneck guys and I shouldn't act so gay around them.
What?
That's what it says.
Act so gay.
Act so gay. That was it. I'd had enough. First, yes, I am gay. Second, I don't tend to let things like that get to me. But like I said, this was the last straw.
Right.
Yes, most people can tell I'm gay after about 15 minutes of conversation. But I'm not dropping a sequin purse out of my mouth when I speak. I've learned...
I like this person.
I'm trying to hold it together and you're like over there giggling.
Sorry.
And sequin, by the way, is added. It's got a little between.
An asterisk.
Sequined purse out of my mouth when I speak.
Incredible.
I've learned to. I've never seen a sequin purse come out of anyone's mouth. But also, I don't have any gaydar at all.
Oh, I do.
Oh, no. When I speak, I've learned to play the role needed, depending on whom I'm around. I know how to read a room. I thank all of my siblings for that.
Mm-hmm.
Having to hide who I am to fit in has been something I've worked on since I were a wee lad. So for this person to think it was suitable for them to tell me how to act was a push too far.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I don't love the term redneck. I've definitely used it before, but it's, I don't know. I don't like the stereotype of everyone from the South is racist. I don't like that. Or
I don't think
homophobic.
I don't think that's, I mean, I guess people think that, but I don't think that redneck and racist go together.
I don't think they're synonymous necessarily, but
no.
it depends on how this person meant it, you know. But it definitely was not their place to say.
There's people who are like, yeah, I'm a redneck. I don't think it's necessarily a bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad.
But there's a connotation with not so nice behaviors that is sometimes meant when someone calls you a redneck. The same way that,
right.
You know, my family might be offended to be called hillbillies because they are from Appalachia, but in reality, being a hillbilly is kind of badass. Like,
yeah,
living off the land and all that shit, cool.
But also the whole they're rednecks, so don't act so gay. That's devil's advocate, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if that was, I don't want him to get beat up? Like, was the reason to try to protect him, or was the reason to try not to let the other people realize that person was hanging around with a gay guy?
I think it's the latter, because based on the way that this person described their boss beforehand, they already had like low respect for them, for their boss. And I think that if they meant it as like, hey, you might just want to be careful what you say around these people because they're not very accepting, like that would have been more coming from a place of like, hey, just so you know. But don't act so gay sounds like they're embarrassed to be around this person. And that is fucking revolting. Like,
oh yeah, like, don't come in here and embarrass me.
Exactly. And why, if you know that these people that work for you are homophobic assholes, why do you continue to employ them?
Well, it sounds like because they were a homophobic asshole.
Possibly.
Because if there was on the wee chance that it was protection, I don't want anyone to be mean to you.
Yeah.
You know, tone it down. How do you say that anyway?
You say, hey, these people, I don't know what their views are, so you just might be careful what you say around them. That's what I would say. But I wouldn't have to say it because I wouldn't be working with people like that. I choose who I work with, and I'm not going to work with homophobic dickheads. Yeah. Personally. I am really disappointed that this person's boss said this to him. Yeah. And kind of makes me a little bit nauseous.
Well, the thing also about this, they say something about the other job didn't last too long. So I wonder if there's somewhere that they can be happy now.
I hope so. And I hope that just people are more accepting, and like the DEI initiatives being canceled and like all of this diversity, their companies are no longer required to hire for diversity reasons, but like,
right.
They really still should be, because the more that you are exposed to people who are different than you and kind of fall in love with their spirit, the more that you realize we're all just humans and none of that shit matters.
Yeah, I mean, if we keeping ourselves away from, those types, whatever that might be.
Yeah, whatever the type is that's different than you,
Yeah, I think I've always said, I've probably said this on the podcast, that I just feel like political candidates should wear bags on their heads so that we only hear what they say.
Yeah. Like, I kind of think that'd be a good idea, actually. That was kind of a heartbreaking listener story.
It was. And
we need people who have experienced bad shit like that. You still shouldn't be afraid to share that, because there might be someone out here listening that's going like, holy shit, I didn't realize that is a microaggression.
Yeah. And if you notice, we didn't use anybody's names. We didn't use any places,
no identifying
locations,
information,
nothing that will identify. So, yeah, if you have a story and you want to hear it on the podcast, share it.
And we support everyone of every background, and any kind of person that wants to share with us, great. But if you're coming from a place of hating someone because they're different than you, then you need to examine that about yourself. And that's all I'll say about you. You suck also.
Join us next time when we'll talk about the history of women in the workplace. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast, or as it was today, our talking some more about our own stories. We hope that you can relate, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you can relate, but not too much.
Yeah, we don't hope you relate too much.
Yes. We hope that you guys were inspired, or maybe can feel a little bit like you're not alone in some of these feelings.
So leave us a review. As long as it's good, a comment. We like bad ones of those. Those will be fun. I like trolls. Share, rate
Bring
us.
it on.
Follow our Facebook page, which is Bad Boss Detox.
That's right. And feel free to share your listener stories with us if you would like, or you can send those to our email address, stories@badbossdetox.com. And lastly, please follow our Instagram, because over there, that's where I put all the funny stuff. I'm going to post pictures and memes and little sneak peek videos, or make us feel validated so we don't have to save every pen or used Kleenex in a shadow box.
Did I tell you that one of the pens, drool came out of it when I turned it upside down?
Oh, God.
I said, I don't want to put
23andMe.
I don't want to put this chewed pen in here, and then I went like that, and it
Oh my God. All right. On that note,
bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a good evening. Stay safe, stay dry, and we'll see you next time. So, yeah, we'll see you next time.